In the winter of 1861, the most powerful woman in the world sat quietly beside a bed, watching the man she loved slowly fade away. This woman ruled an empire so vast that people said the sun never set on it. She commanded armies, governments, and millions of people across continents. But in that room, she wasn't an empress. She was simply a wife, terrified of losing her husband. When Prince Albert died, Queen Victoria did something that shocked the world. For the rest of her life, she would wear only black, and for nearly 40 years, she would mourn him. So the question historians still ask today is this: was Queen Victoria's love for Prince Albert the greatest royal love story ever told, or the beginning of the longest heartbreak in royal history? When Victoria became queen in 1837, she was just 18 years old. Suddenly, she was responsible for ruling the British Empire. But her childhood had been unusually strict and lonely. Her mother and royal advisors controlled nearly every part of her life. She rarely had privacy, rarely had freedom, rarely had real friendships. So when she became queen, Victoria felt something new for the first time in her life. Freedom. She could make her own decisions. She could choose who to trust. But despite all the power around her, Victoria still felt something deeply familiar. Loneliness. She had an empire, but she didn't have someone beside her. Not yet. Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha had been part of Victoria's extended family since childhood. He was her first cousin, raised in Germany, thoughtful, intelligent, and reserved. Their families had quietly hoped the two might marry one day. But when they first met as teenagers, Victoria wasn't immediately certain. Albert seemed serious, even shy, not exactly the charming royal hero people imagined for a queen. But when Albert returned to England in 1839, something changed. Victoria saw him differently. In her diary, she later wrote that he was extremely handsome, with such beautiful eyes and a sweet expression. More importantly, Albert treated her not just as a queen, but as a person. And because Victoria was the reigning monarch, royal tradition required that she be the one to propose. So on October 15, 1839, Queen Victoria asked Prince Albert to marry her. Albert accepted, and the young queen who ruled an empire had finally found someone she trusted. Victoria and Albert married on February 10, 1840. The wedding was celebrated across Britain. But the early years of their marriage were not entirely easy. Albert was a foreign prince in England. Many politicians distrusted him, some mocked him. Others believed he was trying to influence the Queen too much. Even Victoria herself sometimes struggled with sharing authority. After all, she had ruled independently since the age of 18. But gradually something remarkable happened. Instead of competing, they began to rely on each other completely. Albert became Victoria's closest advisor. He helped organize government work. He discussed political matters with her. He supported her decisions and sometimes challenged them. Victoria once wrote in her diary, "Without him, everything loses its interest." Their relationship became something rare in royal history, a partnership. Over the next years, Victoria and Albert built a large family together. They had 9 children, and through marriages, those children would later connect royal families across Europe. Victoria would eventually become known as the grandmother of Europe. But despite ruling a vast empire, the royal couple often sought something very simple: normal family life. They loved spending time at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight, away from politics and court pressures. There they walked in gardens, spent time with their children, and enjoyed quiet evenings together. Victoria often wrote about Albert in deeply personal terms. At one point, she simply wrote, "Albert is everything to me." For a woman who had grown up feeling isolated, Albert had become the centre of her world. Prince Albert was far more than the Queen's husband. He had ambitious ideas about modernising Britain. In 1851, he organised the Great Exhibition of London. The event was held inside a massive glass structure called the Crystal Palace. It showcased inventions, art, and technology from around the world. At first, critics laughed at the idea. But when the exhibition opened, millions of people attended. It became one of the greatest successes of the Victorian era. And suddenly, Albert was no longer seen as an outsider. He was recognised as one of the most influential figures behind the British monarchy. Victoria felt enormous pride, not only in her husband's achievements, but in the life they were building together. But history rarely allows happiness to last forever. By 1861, Albert had been working tirelessly for years, handling royal duties, advising the Queen, managing family matters. Slowly his health began to weaken. He fell seriously ill. Doctors at the time believed he was suffering from typhoid fever. However, modern historians still debate the exact cause of his death. Some believe it may have been a different long-term illness that was not fully understood at the time. Victoria remained constantly at his bedside. She refused to leave him. But on December 14th, 1861, Prince Albert died at the age of 42. For Victoria, the loss was overwhelming. The man who had guided her through adulthood was suddenly gone. After Albert's death, Victoria withdrew from public life. Her grief was profound. She entered a period of mourning that would last for the rest of her life. For decades, she wore black clothing. Some accounts say that she kept Albert's rooms exactly as they had been during his life, preserving his belongings as a way of remembering him. Many people worried about the future of the monarchy. Victoria rarely appeared in public during those years. Critics even accused her of abandoning her duties. But for Victoria, Albert had been far more than a royal consort. He had been her closest friend, her advisor, her partner in everything. Yet Albert's influence never truly disappeared. Together, Victoria and Albert had reshaped the image of the monarchy. They presented the royal family as a devoted household rather than distant rulers. Family life, moral responsibility, public service. These values became the foundation of the modern British monarchy. Victoria herself would reign for 63 years, longer than any monarch before her. But despite her power and achievements, she never stopped speaking about Albert with deep affection. Years later, Victoria wrote something simple in her journal. "I was not made for solitude." She had ruled one of the largest empires in history, yet in her heart, she still missed the one person who had shared her life before the world truly knew her. When Queen Victoria died in 1901, one request was honoured. She asked to be buried with personal items connected to Albert. Even in death, she wanted him close. History remembers Queen Victoria as a powerful ruler. But behind the crown and the empire was a woman who loved deeply. A queen who once found happiness in the quiet companionship of a thoughtful prince. And when that prince disappeared from her life, she never truly replaced him. Perhaps that is why their story still resonates today. Because in a world of politics, power, and royal expectations, Victoria and Albert shared something rare, not just a royal marriage, but a love that endured long after one of them was gone.